source of funds is a absolutely critical issue on the subject of EB5, because different than other investments and within the various visa categories, the EB5 investment must prove not only the source of funds, but the path of funds. So very often, when the source of the investor's fund is many, many years old, it will require an extensive and exhaustive paperwork and documentation to prove. The United States is very concerned about money laundering and other criminal activities, so they will be very demanding when it comes to the source of funds. Now, on the other hand, the older the source of funds, also the more understanding USCIS will be that to the best of their ability, sometimes investors can't obtain documents that are 20, 30 or more years old. That will be taken into consideration, and it's very important that an experienced immigration attorney can evaluate this and provide the requisite guidance on this. But I have clients, for example, from certain countries, like for example Brazil, where you have a tax return that's very detailed. The Brazilian tax return, for example, it not only lists the person's income for the previous year, but it also lists their assets. Very often Brazilian investors, they will say, well, I have everything on my tax return, don't worry about it. I say, well, that's great, that's very helpful, it'll show that's consistent, but in addition to that, you have to prove where that net worth came from. Another very important thing to point out is that you don't have to prove all of your net worth. You have to prove the source of the money that you're investing, and that will be, if it's in a, as I stated, targeted employment area, rural area, or infrastructure project, that will be $800,000 plus whatever the administrative fee is. So let's say, for example, $50,000 or $60,000, and that is all that you must prove. In the event that you have this net worth listed on your tax return, that's great for consistency. But if you are going to, say, sell a property and use that money to invest in EB5, you will use the contract for the sale of the property. You will show that that property is listed on your tax return, that it's there for those countries that function that way. You will show that the income of that sale into your bank statement, and then you will show where that money remained up until the time of the investment. So for example, if the money went into an investment account and then it went into another account, you will have to show what is called the path of funds. And the path of funds will follow the money, basically, from its origin until the moment that it is invested. So if it's something that has happened many, many years ago, then it's going to require many bank statements or many brokerage statements. That's the attorney's job to evaluate, analyze, and approve to ensure that the source and path of funds are meeting the guidelines for EB5. But it's an absolutely essential element in the EB5 analysis. The money is normally invested first into an escrow account. So it's very important. I think some projects don't use it. As an attorney, I always look for that kind of thing because an escrow account gives greater security. The escrow account will have various requirements before being released into the project. So the escrow account, for example, may have some money that it must withhold. That gives greater security to the investor. It will also have targets that must be reached before a certain percentage of the investment will be released to the project. That's also something that's very good as well, because the investor can rest assured that as the project progresses and reaches certain targets that makes the project more or safer, I should say, then that money is released. So there's various technicalities, various details that are very interesting and that an investor should look for to ensure that the source of funds is clear the path of funds is clear and well documented, and that the project also has certain securities that can give greater assurances to the investor.